Hello, people. This is Matt Paris talking, and I'm with my co-host Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
I'm about to ask Paul a question that doesn't really have a right answer, but hopefully it's one of those questions that'll make us and our listeners just pause and be thinking about this even after we're done talking about it. So here you go, Paul. If your life was laid out like a timeline, where do you think you are right now? Where are you at in that timeline? Not in years and not just in age, because it could be different for a lot of people of a similar age. They may see their self in a different part of their story. Think along the lines of like energy, purpose, mindset. Do you think you're at the beginning, the middle, or an end? That's the question I'm going to pose to you here very briefly. But first, I want to start with something a little more lighthearted. Let's look at your life as a movie. If someone made a movie about your life so far, what genre would it be, Paul? Drama? Comedy? Dark comedy? Welcome to Downright Mindful. Stories that stick, questions that matter, and conversations that make you think. Let's get right down to it.
Secret Life of Walter Mitty-ish. Have you seen that one?
I think I've seen it. Have I dug into it? No.
Oh, there's no digging, man.
This is
Just
Ben
watch
Stiller?
it. Yeah.
That's
So
one of your...
that big mural on my classroom wall that Liz did, I mean, that's Secret Life of Walter Mitty. It's my introduction to us diving into old vintage magazines, old Life magazines. Like the premise is he works for Life magazine. It's shutting down. They're going online, and he has to go on an adventure. But that's the last thing that he is adventurous. And I mean, it takes him to Greenland and Iceland and back, and skateboarding to volcanoes. And I mean, it's fun. It's not Zoolander Ben Stiller. It's this other Ben Stiller. But I know who I am, and we've talked about this before. I think, I'm either Paul 6.0 or 7.0, but like, I was a really shy kid, man. I really have transformed. And so, a decent movie, a decent life, you see transformation. And so it's it's not a thriller, man. And I don't think it's high drama. It's not true crime. It's not a comedy. But it's another favorite movie of mine is called The Way. And it's got Emilio Estevez in it, and he's walking the Camino, and this I guess is the 10-year rule. You can say anything about a movie once it's been out. I guess is that true?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
You ever heard that?
You can
before?
just say spoiler alert. I'm about to talk about this movie.
Well, you find out in 10 minutes. He passes away, and his dad ends up taking this 600-mile walk to this sacred site. Mm-hmm. And, I feel like my life hasn't been real fast-paced, but I've crashed into a whole lot of very cool people that I'm very thankful for. I've also had people crash into me, and their consequences spill on mine, and sometimes that's been really hard. I don't know what genre that is, but, call it a drama if you need to fit it in a box. I'm good with that.
Yeah. So as I thought about this question, because I knew I was going to ask this question.
Character-driven.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Long before I asked you this question, I knew I was going to ask you, so I've had some time to think about it, and I keep landing somewhere along those lines, like biographical drama. The first one I thought was like maybe a little less dramatic version of like Hillbilly Elegy.
You talking about your life?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I got you running the streets of Cleveland, man. I got you chasing down people, and no. I got you doing all kinds of things. I got Adam Lowe knocking on the window of your van while you're,
while I'm doing a stakeout.
Yeah.
Well,
I got all kinds of adventure.
That's a chapter for sure. Let's keep this going. What's your soundtrack sound like?
Oh man, I'd leave that up to Seth and Caleb to craft for me. I grew up in the golden age of hip hop, and it's still in me, and I still love it. But I don't know. They have introduced me to some things the same way I've introduced them to some things, but it's more folksy these days. Avett Brothers. Kind of some storytelling, some down home stuff. You know, I mean, that's those are my first thoughts.
Huh. Yeah.
You straight bluegrass?
No, I think I think that's a pretty big part of it. I think
Has to be. What are you thinking about?
some version of hillbilly music. I don't know if you could just call it bluegrass. Jason Isbell's going to have a tune on my soundtrack for sure. But I think it starts with. I think it has to start with some like '90s grunge, maybe Seattle sound. There's got to be like a Nirvana track on there. Little Smells Like Teen Spirit, maybe. Something like that. And it's definitely littered with gospel music. And this is where as I'm thinking about this, and I'm coming to like, okay, maybe a more lighthearted version of Hillbilly Elegy, but I mix it with like a satirical comedy, like "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" There's a lot of it that's got to be self-deprecating and like lighthearted.
Flood's coming, buddy.
Yeah.
TVA. See, you live in the right spot. I'm getting it.
Yeah, you got any Dapper Dans? Who plays you in this movie, Paul?
I don't know. Maybe Zach Pike.
Zach Pike.
Yeah.
Zach Pike's in the room. He don't like movies, so he don't want to talk to us right now.
I don't know. It might be Ben Stiller.
You making?
I don't know. It ain't Tom Cruise. I mean, like, you know, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Me. Shoot. Why not?
You're gonna play you in the movie?
Heck yeah.
Okay.
Jackie Robinson did that for his own movie. Why couldn't I pull that off?
Is he a pretty good actor?
I mean, he wasn't great.
Or did he just like walk in and you see a visual of him and
I mean, he didn't do bad, but it's also like a 1960s movie, you know, so it's through that lens.
yeah.
No, I mean, but I'm being semi-serious, man. I mean, I've got so many interests, and Haley Jones was in my class a few years back. She is in New Zealand right at this very moment. And she is, you know, just still tracking to continue to be a part of movies. I mean, like, she popped up in a Steve Carell movie a couple years ago. And I mean, like, she spent time in Atlanta. But when she was in film school at Lee, she made me a promise going back to Walker Valley, being in my journalism class. I was like, hey, if you ever need anybody, an extra in anything, 3 lines, I got you. And she did. She would call me up. My biggest lines were like, I was a doctor. I had like 6 lines. It was so much fun to be a part of her short films. And why not?
Where can I watch this at?
I mean, it's out there in the world somewhere.
Give me something
I don't
to
know.
search.
I don't know. I mean, is it? I don't know. Like,
Is it on
hers got
YouTube?
chosen in the lead class to be the one that was made with the class. Did she put it on YouTube? I don't know. Did she send it to me in an email? Yeah, that I probably could dig up.
Huh.
Yeah.
I did not know that. We've documented 26 hours of conversation on top of about a 10-year friendship, and I don't think I knew that.
I would love to be in the movies.
Zach's looking for you right now. He's over here doing our research.
I was just looking to see if he had an IMDb.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
But we tricked Zach into that one, didn't he? As he refused to make his voice heard today.
So let me rephrase, as we would say on the stand.
You didn't like that last question? I mean,
I
you didn't
do.
like my last answer?
No,
You
I
didn't see
do.
it
I
coming?
do like it. It's just incomplete. What besides you?
Hey, your guy Jason Isbell, he's an actor.
What kind of actor is it going to require to play the role of Paul Salzville in this movie? What strengths would they need? What would they be able to have to convey to sort of pull out this Paul Salzville character?
This is a trick. This is a therapy session.
Not a therapy
yes,
session.
It is. We're
No,
role
it's not.
playing. We're getting deep.
Buy in, coach. Let's go.
I mean, they're gonna have sad eyes, a full heart. I don't know. Take things too seriously. Let people in their life. They're gonna have to be humbled. After already thinking that you're humble, you get humbled again. But has a big heart of service and just sticks and stays. I don't know. Is that a big range?
This guy doesn't have to have any comedic prowess at all.
I mean, there's a little window of my life. My roommate Jake and I I had a 4-year run of just straight obnoxiousness. I think I've told you that a little bit.
Yeah.
Of just like leaving home, which, you know, I look back now, I wouldn't even call it strict anymore. I used to always call it, it was strict. But no, it was me being super serious. My brother-in-law Chris would always say, man, you're going to have a heart attack by you're 25. and I'd punch him in the arm or I'd punch him in the chest. I'd push him with two hands as hard as I could. And of course he could take it and he would just laugh. But I mean, like I always had someone in my life who was just comic relief. And Chris was that for a long time. Or I've always had someone in my life beside me. So he, you know, if you're casting for this movie, say I'm playing along.
Yeah.
You have to have a Chris Cretton character come along who just, I mean, he just, just was at ease. He set me at ease because I know him well enough, and you walk with people long enough, and you discover that the people that seem so laid back are also carrying whatever they're carrying.
Sure.
So, but like he could unlock something within inside of me that I couldn't unlock myself. So, you know, I like this thought. I believe, I teach it, I try to learn it. Like we are all, you know, every good movie has dynamic characters who have to want something meaningful and have to overcome obstacles for that story to be any good. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a dynamic character, it's just not going to hold our attention, you know. And if they don't want something meaningful that we can truly connect to, and I mean, that could be an alien, it could be, you know, an animated, you know, character, but like they've got to want something, and they're going to have to overcome some obstacles. And so I see that in my own life, and I see seasons of life. And I think I'm about to answer your other question, so I'm going to hold off and pause right there.
Yeah, let's pause. I got a side question.
Yeah.
Chris Cretton, you brought that name up. Is he a funny adult? In your experience, is this a guy that you laugh around a lot?
I mean, I do. Yeah, I do.
I got you. That's a genuine question.
Could we put him up on a stage and he'd do a comedy show? I mean, like...
If he wanted to, for sure.
I think he could, man.
Well, the reason I asked that question is because I haven't known Chris as an adult like you have, but I knew him as a middle school kid. He's one of the funniest guys in the room.
Fun-loving dude. Yeah.
Super funny guy. Just always said stuff. He was just always fun. And it wasn't like obnoxious funny necessarily, at least to my middle school brain at the time. But he was just... It was smart, kind of fun. You could just tell
quick, witty.
He was witty. He was super witty. So
smirky, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm glad you held that question, but I think that brings it to an end. I'm easily going to name my actor as Jack Black. It's Jack Black. There's no other way around it.
Did you go see the Minecraft movie already?
I did not. I'm afraid that
I'm going, man.
I would go to the movie theater, and if Chicken Jockey's ever going to happen in Cleveland, Tennessee, it would happen the moment I step into the movie theater. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do not.
I don't know. I don't really know what it is. There's going to be some young person listen to us and be like, listen to these old guys talking. But there's footage coming out of these movie theaters where all these young people are jumping into these movies, and most of the time it's the Minecraft movie. And someone will just, there's a certain scene in that movie when something happens and someone will yell chicken jockey and there'll be some dude on another dude's shoulders and everybody's throwing popcorn everywhere. It's crazy. But it's like a
I don't know things that you know because I'm not on social media. Is that what that is?
Yeah,
is that
I spend some time watching trends and this and that, and
yeah,
I trip on that kind of stuff. And we've talked a million times about how I don't like to go to the movie theater. So no, I haven't saw the Minecraft movie.
We've talked a million times how I'd love to. So
yeah, but I just need Jack Black to do that thing that Will Smith did back in the 90s and kind of make that turn to where he shows us that he's a legit serious actor.
Yeah.
And then he'd be the perfect character for my movie. Yeah. That's easy.
I liked him in The Holiday. Did you ever see that one?
I don't think so.
That's a Christmas movie for Sarah and I. And he takes this turn, and it's not a super serious role. He's more light than like over the top Nacho Libre stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, he could certainly be versatile. I'm sure there's another movie out there that I'm not thinking of that he did or tried.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like Jack Black.
I Know What You Did Last Summer came out when I was in junior high school, and it's the eyebrows, but people would come to me in the hallways at school and be like, "You look just like this guy." Like multiple people. And it was just our eyebrows. Now he's like a chubby guy with a beard, so that it works out. It fits. So now that we've had our fun, let's get into the meat and potatoes here, Paul. Let's zoom out. I want you to take a look at your life like it's a timeline. Not events only. You can sort of start breaking it down into chapters if you want, but you're the only person that knows your ambitions, your thoughts, your where you are right now. So if I do zoom out and we take that 30,000 foot view of your life as a timeline, and you put your finger in that timeline to say, this is where I am, where is that?
So I put something in my notes here recently. There's a priest that I listen to often. He doesn't have his own podcast, but he pops up on a bunch of guys that I listen to. And he's dedicated his life to giving us as believers just, I don't know, a better understanding of the Gospels in context, especially in that kind of literary, historical context. Joseph Campbell, you familiar with that guy?
Not, no.
Hero with 1,000 Faces.
No.
So, Zach, Joseph Campbell? Okay, so in the storytelling world, Joseph Campbell's a big deal as a historian, anthropologist, sociologist. He just kind of integrates the myth and mythology of ancient days, of Greeks, but then runs the gamut of running through Jewish culture, just Christianity comes along, just religion in general, but let's not just keep it at religion. Let's just talk about story elements. And this guy studied under Joseph Campbell. So go with me. This book, Hero with 1,000 Faces, it's a big deal. Okay. So he studied with this guy, but he has taken it to this place where, and I listened to more than one podcast. I went looking for it after I heard it introduced, and it just trimming some bushes, mowing the grass now. 'Tis the season, right?
Yeah.
Doing some dishes, changing some laundry, taking some walks, walking Lucy.
It's prime listening time.
It is, buddy. But he talks about, Matthew from start to finish is about how, as a believer, to deal with change. The Gospel of Mark, from start to finish, is about how to suffer. Looking at the book of Luke is learning how to serve. And that the book of John is about how to receive joy. And when you asked me this question, my very first thought is, I've experienced a bucketfuls of change. And feel like some suffering for sure. And I've given my life to a life of service. But I feel like I've only had a few tablespoons of joy. Like, I know what joy is. I know what happiness is. I know what it means to laugh. I know what it means to be loved and to love. But like the joy that just radiates, that just resonates within. And maybe joy is closer to me to like being at peace, being at rest. But I think this is a season of my life, as silly or, I'm kind of serious saying this. Like, I just want to pursue some joy. Maybe the way, stand-up comedy has like creeped into my life these last 2 years is a clue. But like, just like Chris used to say to me as like a 15-year-old, man, you're too serious. But that seriousness, I always thought was like discipline, right? I thought it was structure. I thought it was self-motivation. And it was, but it also led me to some dead ends, man, some real dead ends. And so, but I know some authentic service in my life has been significant for other people. I've seen how change has transformed me and others in my life. I see the value of suffering, how we can learn some lessons, how our own suffering and our threshold of pain can actually keep other people from having to suffer. That's just some Viktor Frankl I threw out in those last two sentences. Man's search for meaning. But I just, before I'm done, I want to experience some joy, man. Some joy, maybe some uninterrupted joy. Like, I don't even know where this is going. You did this to me, so
Well,
it's just kind of where I'm at.
Here's where my mind is going as you speak. Because while we're not the same dude, we parallel in places. And I think one of them is, and correct me if I'm wrong, don't let me put words in your mouth, but I'm always chasing something. I'm always working on the next thing. I have a vision for this, so I need to, and that's where some of that seriousness comes from. And it's been that way since my late teenage years, when a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, "What? I gotta accomplish something. I gotta do something." Whatever those drivers are, I don't know. That's real therapy sessions to have there. I said all that to say, you're saying, as I ask you, put your finger on this timeline and tell me where you are. You say I'm in a season of pursuing joy. So is pursuing joy for you keeping the ambitions, working on the next thing, and doing something different than you've done in the past? Or is it moving to a place to where you're alleviating I don't know what you're saying there.
Well, neither do I. I mean, you just got me rambling, but it made me think of seasons of life. And this priest continues to go on in the way that he teaches. Just he says, these are my words, get a clue. But his words are, hey, it's all right there in front of us, ready to reveal itself. And it's in the seasons. I mean, the seasons of life, there's 4 seasons of life. He says, take notice, there's 4 directions, right? There's these 4s. And I feel like I've had a pretty full 3 seasons worth of those things I've mentioned. And I don't think I've ever had a full season of just joy. Like, I don't even know if this makes sense or not, but like, it was in my head when I was trimming bushes today.
Yeah.
And like, you're asking me questions and you're attempting to have me articulate it. And I may not be doing it well, but by golly, you've got me. You ain't got me spinning, but you got me rolling.
So what do you think it's going to take as a guy who is saying you haven't experienced a season of joy in that way? Where do you steer the ship?
I don't know. Maybe that's why I've never had a fuller understanding of what it meant. Or maybe I don't even understand what the definition of the word means. And I'll say, yet. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not knowing stuff.
So in a world that would say, some version you've heard of, like, oh, you figure it out in your 20s, you earn in your 30s, you reap in your 40s, your legacy begins here. In that timeline, now I'm not locking you to that timeline because I myself am behind in that timeline. Am I behind, or am I just saying I'm not adhering to that timeline? Because if I'm answering this question, I'm pointing to the fact of, like, okay, I'm early 40s, and I'm nowhere near the place where I'm just going to cruise now. You know what I mean? It's not I'm putting it into overdrive and I'm fueling ambitions and I'm turning it up to it's just different. I'm beginning new things. You understand? So I can't say, oh, I'm nearing the downhill of this timeline. Now, of course, we both know as soon as we hear this question, we don't get to choose we don't get to choose where the actual timeline ends. So that's one thing you have to take into consideration. But if you're looking at the arc of who we are, not only personally, but professionally, and as nerds or lifelong learners, creative types, I think you're a creative type. I know that I'm a creative type to the point that, I probably need someone to manage me and say, hey, just let's not put that iron in the fire. Let's take that heat and put it on this iron that you already have, because I want to split off and start creating 7 different things. And I quickly realized, like, there's only one of me and I only get so many hours in the day. So going from, I don't really have a season of joy. I want to intentionally choose some joy. Here in that timeline that I've just given you, that, are you in a place where now I'm enlightened and I can reap the fruits of my labors, or am I still laboring? Or do you even see it that way? Can you see it that way? Hey y'all, quick shout out to Michaela Hagler for winning our Downright Mindful t-shirt giveaway on Instagram. That's a big congratulations, Michaela. And hey, if you want a t-shirt of your own, the link to our TeePublic shop is in the episode description. And while you're in the description, follow us on Facebook and Instagram to keep up with everything we're doing. Just search Downright Mindful. Anyways, back to the podcast.
I mean, you keep asking me or questions, and I feel like they're just all yes answers. So like this or that, and I would say, well, yes and yes. I mean, I think that's what my life has turned. If there's any enlightenment within me, it is the understanding that there are very few either ors that actually exist. We want them to be either ors because we want life to be that simple and easy in life. I mean, 47 years in and been through these seasons, like it's just not either or, man. It's a bunch of ands. And we get to, we're middle-class folks that have been given some opportunities, and like in those opportunities, we get more ands. I think there's other people that have either ors, but we get to do a lot of choosing, you and I. You disagree with that? You agree with that?
No, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I
okay.
agree with that.
So
but there are other people on the planet that get to somewhere near just beyond my age, around your age, or maybe just a few years past that are going to go home and mow their yard and watch the grandkids play. That's why I have to say the either ors, because when I look at those people, I can't see it. I can't see me ever getting to. I'm not saying it's not true or that I'll never get there. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I can't see my brain getting to a place where that's it.
You don't have any grandkids. You don't even have that decision to make. You're just activating your imagination.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, we don't ever really know until we get in the moment. We've had conversations along that vein before of just like you don't know until you're in it.
Yeah, I'd be the first to say that.
Yeah. So,
but as I try to vision it and I try to imagine, because this is something I've seen for a long. I used to, that used to be an ambition, is getting to that place where the work, with quote fingers in the air, is seemingly done, and now I reap the rewards of a body of work, and I get to watch it. And like I said, I'm not saying it'll never happen. I'm saying it's tough to see. Even as considerate as I try to be, it's tough to see because my brain I'm 41, and my brain is going so many different places all the time, around the clock. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And maybe not a whole lot of people know exactly what we mean because not everybody's brain spins that way, opens up that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just don't. Like, I mean, the Apostle Paul, he talks about contentment and he talks about joy. Now I'm kind of reaching a little bit deeper here to see where like these responses just came from. Because if my mama just heard the beginning of this of like, I've never had a season of joy, did I just like hurt her heart? If my Sarah hears this and like I've never had a season, we've been together for 23 years, did I just hurt her heart? If my boys are listening to this and I've experienced 2 decades with them and like, huh? But you're trying to get me to articulate something about a season of life that I haven't experienced yet.
But you would relent that you have experienced joy.
I'm happy.
For sure.
But watch this. I know what happiness is and I have experienced it.
Yeah.
Because I've been such a introvert for so long, I've held tightly to Paul's words about just being content. But there's these other words he uses and he talks about joy. But if you get a little deeper into this, I mean, the joy, when he starts talking about joy to the Philippians, he's like near the end of his life. When he's talking about contentment, man, he's still in the mix and he's still traveling and he's still like getting stoned and going to the next town. And then the Spirit's like, hey, let's go back to that town you just got stoned in. And he tell all the people and they're like, that's you're out of your mind. He's like, yeah, that's kind of the track that we're supposed to be on. Let's go be out of our mind. And he'll go back to those towns. And if I get, I'm content with having lots of things. I'm content with having nothing. Like content has been an ambition of mine. Like I got a fresh ambition and it's, I don't know if it's an upgrade or if it's just this other thing. Do I have to swim from this island to that island? Do I have to row? What do I have to do to get from here to there to have this other, not just an experience or an encounter, but a true season of life that that maybe I just approach almost, if not, I mean, almost everything just with a different mindset. You used that word earlier. What's your mindset? You know? And, most of my life, my mindset has just been dig in, stay focused, keep your head down, get your work done, and see people around you. I mean, that's constant tension, right?
Yeah.
Love your neighbor and yourself. Like, that's constant tension. And so, I don't know. I want to be content, but I want to, this joy thing is just whispering to me. I think that's where I'm at. I'm not making this make any sense to anybody.
No. Let's back up and let's sort of take a different angle.
But it's making some sense to me. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep going.
You've got the timeline. We're at 30,000 feet. We're looking down. We don't know exactly where we are, but we're seeking joy. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I've said it quite a few times.
Okay. Where's that timeline begin for you? Because at some point, we're just a kid, just kind of figuring kid things out. But at some point, I referenced earlier a light bulb going off for me and realizing that, hey, like, this is a life. This is a thing. There's a lot of this that's in my control. There's a lot of it that's not. That's sort of the beginning for me. And it's very close to the birth of my son. So is there a place that you could go to where this journey begins?
This really is a therapy session. You
Is
cannot. Yes, this is, man.
I've never been in a therapy session, so I don't know what it looks like.
It's reflective, and you're trying to connect.
You can generalize.
You're attempting to. I don't want to generalize.
Okay,
It's not who I am.
Then run it.
But you're looking for markers, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the people of Israel back in the day, man, they'd stack a bunch of stones, and then they keep traveling. And they knew they'd be back this way, and those stones were the reminder of, hey, psst, remember? Tell your kids. So that the next generation who did not experience Jericho's walls falling down or the Jordan River drying up, make sure they know, make sure they can retell the story. Because it's the second and the third generation catching the elements that are so vital for the story, the person, the spirit to stay alive of a movement. But that's where it is for it to get to a fourth, fifth, sixth generation. So when I look back and I see we moved from Ohio to South Carolina when going from 8th to 9th grade. And I really, man, I'm in my room crying, I hate you, Mom and Dad. And I've told you before, South Carolina was my favorite place I've ever lived. Still is, just that physical space. We're going back this weekend, my mom and sisters and I. But my senior year, in the middle, at Christmas, Pop was moving again from the Navy base in Charleston to the Marine base in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And was like, hey, if you want to stay, Jackie can take a semester off from Lee. She can take care of you. You can stay here till graduation. But I had learned something from the move from 8th grade to 9th grade about change. So when I talk about the season of change, I can look back and look my dad straight in the eye and go, yeah, I'll go. What senior in high school who's in the middle of their basketball season, who has ambitions of playing ball at the next level, who has no offers in that moment, says, yeah, let's go change things up. But there was just something within me that just understood change. So when I think of change and then I think of suffering, that could go much deeper. When I think of service, meeting Sarah and hooking up at Westwood just gave me so many opportunities to get outside of myself and to be a part of something bigger than myself, more than being a part of a team. I had been a part of teams, but now I was part of this Habermas family that was 50 deep, spending a week together gave me a glimpse. The Westwood family that was about service and being together and being in community was different than my Pentecostal heritage that I inherited that was very individualistic. So I've got some markers as a young man where I can look back and go, yeah, those were the times where I was really beginning to get it, teaching Of course, but I mean, I was not a very good teacher year 1, year 2. I was really struggling to figure it out, which anybody who stayed into the teaching business for a decade can look back and go, yeah, you either figure things out or you don't figure things out. And I figured some stuff out. So you've got me thinking full circle back to this whole idea of, yeah, experiencing a season of joy. I mean, what transformation inside of me, or what's going to transform outside of me, that I could walk that way, and that would be a path. I don't know. We're going to be talking about this off the mic for quite some time. So
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, when I start thinking in certain parameters, for instance, we're podcasting right now. That's what this is called that we're doing. If I could think back to like a few months ago when we started, and I could talk to that Matt that was about to start doing a podcast, I'd tell him, hey, this is going to be a hard lesson to learn. Don't do it this way, do that, or do this. I get the experience all the time, including today, talking with students about certain paths, and some of them kind of start to look like the way my law enforcement career began. So I literally get to say to them, like, hey, this is what I did. Don't do that. Or, hey, this is what I did and it worked out really good for me. You can be as specific or as general as you want to be about this, but can you identify sort of a chapter of that timeline where if someone listening to us is maybe in that chapter, it may be valuable for them to hear you speak? Or if just the idea of if you could go back and sort of rewrite that chapter or make a different decision, does something come to mind for you that you would change or do differently now that you've experienced that?
no, that's simple for me. I wish earlier I would have learned how to accept help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let people in. Yes. Because I wanted to invite myself into other people's space and be a help, and to be of service, and to be Christ-like, and to be generous, and to be compassionate. But I wouldn't let people be generous to me for too long, to be compassionate to me for too long. I held up those walls for too long. That's an easy one for me. Absolutely. 100%. Tell it to anybody.
Yeah.
Let people in.
I like that. I was around in that season of your life when you were kind of coming to those realizations. I remember a conversation we had one time, and it was not only you allowing me to help you in some way, and I can't remember specifically what it was. I'm trying. But you even verbalized to me, like, not only am I going to allow you to help me, I'm okay right now with asking you to help me. And was it maybe when Seth needed some help getting in and out of the house after a surgery or something? Is that what was going on during that time, or do you remember?
I don't know. I can probably back that up when you were an SRO to COE, because that was a real transformative time of my life. I had made some friends that were older than me. That was the first time I embraced some folks.
Yeah.
Some pastors, a podiatrist, an engineer at Whirlpool. And these folks were 10, 15, 20 years older than me. And, and it was just, these were people who were so dang helpful to folks, but also, man, they embrace people. They let people in. Yeah. And so they were a great example to me. It was beyond just an understanding. But I remember quite a few times just telling people straight up, I'm practicing receiving help.
Yeah.
So you want to buy me lunch? Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I'll let you. Yeah. When before it was just like, let's split the check, or no, I got you, and that was it was probably that most of the time. I got you. Yeah. I got you. You know how many people I've gotten lunch for, dinner for, breakfast for, a snack for, a drink for, run to the concession stand for, right? Convenience store for, sure. But, don't you dare ask to buy my lunch or breakfast or dinner or get me a body, because I'll be like, nah, I'm good. And I wasn't. I was dang thirsty. So I got to a place, and it totally could be Seth coming home. I mean, I wouldn't put that one out at all. But a little bit earlier than that, I would say the words, I'm practicing. Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind one bit you buy my lunch today. And so
I do remember that coming up a couple times, and you kind of telling me what you were doing there. You're practicing probably something like that. Yeah. Anything you want to add to this conversation, Paul? I don't want to. I don't even want to talk about the end of this timeline. I think that's too far out of our control to even put that into a conversation.
Are you saying death? I mean, just say that you haven't said that word yet.
Well, more so.
Is that the end of the timeline?
I think in the context of what I'm talking about is where we have any control, because I can't see control beyond death. I guess the only thing I could ask is like, what's left? If you can't decide where that other parameter is, which you can't, what's left for you?
Well, I'm going to keep learning, man. I mean, I don't think that ever ends. And I want, one of my greatest desires, I want eternity to be about continuing to learn. My young, I don't know, probably 8, 9, 10-year-old imagination was just like, everything instantly. It's like, I don't know. Nah. I think we cross a threshold and we don't just know everything. And I also, probably my 12, 13, 14-year-old imagination sitting in Pentecostal services was like, somewhere along the way, these are going to be just eternal worship services. Not a big music guy. Somewhere along the way, it's like, maybe there's something else in eternity, right? But as long as I'm still in this skin, like I'm gonna keep learning, man. And I want to invite people into that learning circle and just share and practice, figure some stuff out together, and then go try something else. Like I want to keep practicing. I want to keep trying. Just like you. I mean, we have a lot of interests, and we don't fit in a box very well. And that's what our storyline probably reveals more than anything else. It reveals our interests and how we've been willing to kind of step out of the stream and step back in a different place where most people, either they're content or they just don't know any better, or they don't want to take a risk, or they just have never got an invitation to do something different. But that's not who we are, man.
But if you're anything like me, you've looked upon those people before and been a little bit envious.
Which one?
The people who can just be. You ever look at those people and be like, man, I bet their brain is not burning at 124 miles an hour right now.
But they're usually the ones further down the path.
You think?
In my experience.
You don't encounter people who are clearly, that 22-year-old that's just happy to go to that factory and come home and kiss his wife and mow his yard, and that's it. Like that's bliss for.
I haven't met a 22-year-old who's going to the factory, coming home, cutting his grass, kissing his wife.
Oh, for sure.
You?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But are they content?
They look like it.
Okay, there it is.
Yeah, for sure. I'm aware of that. I mean, the life of comparison is when life stops. I mean, that is a full stop when we start comparing ourselves. Yeah. You cannot live a full life while comparing to other folks. There's another one I would tell them. You wanted me to package something up, let people in, stop comparing. There it is.
Huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Huge.
I would give the same advice. And I didn't want to lead you that I've made that comparison and been unhappy about it. But there are, sometimes those 22-year-olds grow up to be this guy that I've looked up to my entire life who worked that 40-year gig at Whirlpool just on the line. Never took a promotion, was offered it, didn't want it. Goes home, mows his yard, kisses his wife, loves Jesus, and is one of the happier fellers I've ever met. And we've had, the reason I know that is because we've had pretty in-depth conversations about it.
I think those folks are an exception.
I think but he clearly is further down the path. I mean, this guy is a wizard to me. You know what I mean? He's got some things figured out.
So, that would just make me curious. Hey, what's his inner circle look like? What's his inner life look like? I mean, I could ask like 10 questions to that dude right now because he's probably not as simple as he seems.
No, he's not for sure.
Yeah, because he's a wizard. This
is my first landlord.
That's just his cloak.
His name's Frony Reimer. He's a good one. He's an old country boy. Loves Jesus, and we rented a house from him when we first got married. We paid $325 a month, and if I mowed the yard, it was $25. So you better bet I was mowing that yard. $25 off. And so he and I would have some good conversations. And he's...
Well, he's not just working the line. He's renting things out to young families that he's connecting to and having conversation with, because that's what wizards do.
Yeah, he mentored me without knowing it. Or maybe he knew it. I don't know. But
I would guess that he probably did.
I love him for it. There's things that he said to me and ideals that he's passed to me just over the creek in the backyard, and they still echo in my mind sometimes. So yeah. But yeah, he's a upper level. Then this isn't just me looking upon a guy and comparing. But he's got something. He always had something. So I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm just kind of admiring Frony Reimer now. I love him so much. Anyways, so we've sort of pinpointed in a way where we are. We've even looked and decided some markers or monuments that were a beginning, and we've mentioned what we hope to achieve. Is achieve the right word?
Sometimes.
Or hope to do up until the end. For those listening to us, I hope this is one of those conversations that you think about. You listen to it today and tomorrow on your drive to work or your drive home. It's in your mind. Where are you at in life right now? If you looked at this timeline of your life, where are you in that, that career arc or personal journey or whatever it is? And then if you haven't before, start looking for those parameters, as I called them earlier. I don't know if that's the right word, but where did that journey begin? Because it didn't begin at birth. You weren't having those thoughts when you came out of the womb. It's good stuff. Paul called it therapy, and he's an experienced guy. You're a therapist, right?
No, I would
not a
never
therapist?
claim to be such a thing.
No.
Have I done some marriage counseling before I was
A counselor.
That guy?
That's the word I was looking for.
I
not a therapist.
I would claim to be a counselor. but I mean,
Counselor. I got you. Anything you want to add to this conversation, Paul, before we cut these folks loose and let them get on about their day?
Nah, this is one of those where you just pause. There's not a stopping point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really wanted to have this conversation. This conversation looks and feels like the conversations that you and I have naturally that,
Sure.
Walking around a school somewhere. So, yeah. Anyways, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Man, that's downright mindful. You've been listening to Downright Mindful with your hosts, Matt Paris and Paul Salzville. Produced by Josh Morris. Intro and outro production by Derek Kinsey. You can find us wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. Thanks for listening.